we're joined by Dr. Digby James Wern, a geopolitical analyst, and also Professor Yoichiro Sato Ritsukamen from the Asian Pacific University. Thank you very much to both of you, gentlemen. Let's begin with Dr. Wern. Now, these tensions are escalating even more right now, considering that we are hearing news from Taiwan that a U.S. military official is visiting there, although it has not been confirmed yet. But why do you think the U.S. is trying to rub China the wrong way?
Well, the US is trying to rub China the wrong way all the time. There's nothing new there. Well, just 2 days ago, it was agreed that a Chinese mainland group would head to Taiwan at the invitation of the mayor of Taipei. And so I don't think it's any coincidence that those two visits are going to happen at approximately the same time. And of course, the US is in the process of expanding its bases in the Pacific. There's problems in Australia with nuclear ambiguity. The Australians, not stating whether or not US B-52s have nuclear weapons, and the nuclear submarines as well. I mean, so this is escalation right across the Pacific, and of course, there's always the problems that are continuing in the Ukraine.
So, Professor Sato, in your opinion, how do you see these relations between China and U.S. developing?
Well, as you stated earlier, the relationship has been tense for the last couple of years already prior to the balloon incident, and the balloon shooting didn't make it any better. But having said that, it's not, when rubbing the other country in the wrong way, that's a kind of mutual tit for tat. That's how the tensions escalate. And the balloon incident came in the wrong timing when, the Secretary Blinken was preparing for a visit to Beijing. And that was supposed to be an opportunity for the two countries to diffuse the ongoing tension. And there was plenty of reason why China too was looking for such an opportunity. China has been under the economic isolation because of the pandemic, and also because of the political tensions with the United States and its allies and friends. And then China's support for the Russian invasion of Ukraine made things even worse. So China wanted to take a break from all these the diplomatic difficulties and try to diffuse the tension with the U.S., but somebody had to fly a balloon. So that tells something about the way Chinese government is operating. It's probably very disorganized on that side.
So back to Dr. Wern. In your opinion, what is going to happen next? I mean, we see the U.S. obviously trying to boost its military ties with Taiwan. China has time and again warned the U.S. not to do so. We've even had military exercises on the part of China taking place in that region. How is this going to continue?
It's a red line. It's always been a red line, and it will always remain a red line for China. There's never been any doubt about that. And so the US knows what it's getting into. And I think it's fairly agreed now that the US is salami slicing the Shanghai Communique, so its agreement over the One China principle, and that's just continuing. And one of the only things that the US Congress can ever agree on is military spending and to have a foreign demon. So it's got Russia and China as foreign demons, and those security relationships are very much forward projection, one needs to always remember that the American power projection is all the way to China's near waters. It's not the other way around. There are no Chinese ships in California. So, it's always going to be a red line, and China has always had a fairly measured response. The volatility of the balloon incident where, those meteorological balloons, weather balloons, all sorts of surveillance balloons. There's hundreds and hundreds of these balloons floating around. And, there was just news that the Americans had shot down some amateur balloonist's balloon. This is really a kind of a diversion, because while the balloon was locking everybody's eyes on a big white object in the sky, what was really happening on the ground, of course, is that the Ukraine war is not going well. That the Taiwan economy is in trouble. Japan's economy is in trouble. TSMC, which is the semiconductor producer out of Taiwan, are basically being forced to move their production offshore to mainland USA, continental USA. And the head of TSMC, Morris Chang, has said that the US is over its head, and not able to actually to do this kind of manufacturing. So that's another problem, and I think that scares the United States a lot. And then the other thing is the issue over the supply of ammunition. It's obvious that NATO and the Allies have basically run out of ammunition, and they have to re-industrialize, and they've said they've only got 2 years. It's going to take them 2 years to be able to do that. So it's all very good that they've got bases in the Philippines, new bases in the Philippines, but they're not going to be able to supply them with anything. And the same is true in Australia with its nuclear submarines and so forth. So, there's a lot of talk out of the United States. There's a lot of media coverage, but underneath that, we can see that there's not much substance. And I think China knows that, and China is going to continue with its very, very measured response to all of this, knowing that time is always on its side. And I'd just like to say also that China has not been supporting Russia's special military operations in the Ukraine. It hasn't done that. It's taken the approach that it needs to have a negotiated peace settlement. And that's what's happening right now in Munich. The Americans are trying very hard to talk to China. So Secretary Blinken has asked for a meeting with Wang Yi, the head of diplomacy of China. Biden has said he wants to talk to Xi Jinping. And this is, of course, after they've made all of the furor about the balloon. And, of course, China had said they would not speak to the defense secretary from the United States immediately when they shot down that balloon. So, look, there is hope that there will be some discussions, but the question is, what are the Americans going to offer? What are they going to say? Are they going to say they're going to reduce sanctions, that they're going to stop building new bases, that they're going to stop nuclearizing the Pacific Ocean and ASEAN? Are they going to do that? So I think it's very, very difficult. I think the Americans are in a kind of full-scale escalation in a way that is disguising the structural and economic problems they have at home. Real problems. And so I think, it's China is going to play this. It's a long game, and they're going to play it slowly and keep a very measured response and always be open to communication.
And as you mentioned so yourself, time is, of course, on China's side. So let's bring in Professor Sato for a wrap-up of our entire discussion. And of course, Dr. Wern did mention that you don't see any Chinese vessels moving around California, which brings us back to the balloon incident and how harshly the U.S. responded to that. So in your opinion, how is this whole situation going to develop?
Well, the objectives of the balloon will reveal themselves as the retrieved equipment gets analyzed by the United States. So at this point, I'm not sure what they were meant for. But having said that, the US has never accepted the People's Republic of China's sovereign claim over the island of Taiwan. So one China policy doesn't mean that. And first of all, it's not America's policy, it's China's policy. And the US has only expressed its understanding of China's position. It's not accepting China's sovereignty claim. So in that sense, the Taiwan status has remained open question all these years, and the U.S. has clearly stated U.S. opposes the military means by China to alter the status quo of this de facto separation of Taiwan. So, so in that sense, the U.S. policy is a response to China's escalating aggressions over the Taiwan Straits. China has tested, China has flown into the, the air territorial space of Taiwan, and the more frequent provocations happening in this region. And the U.S. doesn't have a grand design as such to, contain China or make Taiwan independent. Rather, the U.S. has been responding to China's growing assertions in this region, and U.S. allies are equally threatened by China's moves. So they're moving toward closer alliance with the United States. In the case of Japan, Japan has moved from its previous defensive defense doctrine, and now Japan is procuring the intermediate range missile forces, not nuclear armed, it's a conventional missiles, in order to respond to the growing missile threats from China as well as North Korea. Australia and some other countries, Philippines, they are also developing closer relationships with Japan, with the United States. Some European states are also interested in maintaining stability in the region because the major conflict in Asia will divert American attention away from Europe. So instead, they want to prevent potential conflicts in Asia from the beginning.
Thank you very much, Professor Yoichiro Sato from the Ritsukamen Asian Pacific University, and also Dr. Degbe James Warren, geopolitical analyst. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the News Review.
Thank
And
you.
thanks to all of you viewers for watching this episode.